Hey everyone, welcome back to the construction yard where we're continuing to work on the design of our spaceship that will finally take us off the Earth-like planet and onto our further adventures. Yeah, so here we are standing on top of the cross brace of the thruster pod. So last week we kind of worked out the thrusters. Okay, you know what? Not really. What I'm actually standing on is version number 2. So I took the basic concept that we had last week and I kind of trimmed them down a little bit. So if we look over there, you can see that's the one we built last week. It's basically very thick and stubby nacelles, and I felt that they were just not holding up well. But what it gave me the kind of concept or proof of concept for me to come back in and just kind of trim things up a little bit. Basically, what I did is I took this big thruster here. Let me turn my light on. Took this big thruster, which you can see is right there, and I moved it up and then just kind of lengthened and reorganized and got it a little bit flatter because a lot of the thickness was coming based on having that downward thruster connecting at a weird point and then just kind of stacking everything on top of the tanks. Everything that was in here is in here. It is still the double fuel tank, so there's still 2 fuel tanks inside there. All I've really done is I've just kind of moved things from center lines and offsets so that I can keep the conveying a little bit more compact. So remembering that each thruster, whether it's an ion, whether it's an atmospheric, whether it's a hydrogen, the small thrusters require 2 blocks in length, height, whatever you want. It's a 1x1x2 arrangement. So, that's why that got so thick, is because I was putting the strip of conveyors or putting that 1x1x2 directly on the fuel tank. That was making it higher. Here, what I've done is I've just offset them so that, let's see if we can't get in here. Let me slow down a little bit. Offset them a little bit. Right in here. There we go. So instead of coming off the top conveyor, they're now coming off the side conveyor here. So you can see there's the row of conveyor ports that are connecting to the thrusters. So everything gets to be a lot more compact and a lot more manageable, plus giving me these places to have turrets on it. Okay, so that's what we did last week, and in between kind of episodes there, the improvement and whatnot. So what I want to do today is I want to start working on kind of the the industrial part of the ship, the kind of central functionality of it. So this is not just going to be a ship for going. I mean, it is going to be a larger ship. Maybe a little bit bigger than I was first intending, but I'm going to try to contain some of its size here because I really don't want the weight getting too high. After all, I've only got a couple of thrusters underneath here for lifting. I've also only got the 2 atmospheric flatmos there. So, I don't want the weight to get ridiculously high, but this is going to be a mobile base. Once I kind of lift off the planet there, I am going to be spending a lot of time in space, which means I am going to need some sort of infrastructure on board the ship here. And that's what I want to figure out how to get it today, or get that part in today. So I'm talking things like we're going to make sure we get some refineries. We're going to get some or a refinery at least. Get a couple of assemblers in there. We're going to want some cargo. We're going to need, of course, O2, H2 generators. We're gonna need oxygen tanks, things like that, power generation, and I'm gonna have most of that basically right in this little area here. And what I'm gonna then do is kind of build the living spaces or the areas that I'm gonna be moving around further towards the rear here. So let's hop into the character. And now that I have an idea where we're going, let's actually get to work. So first thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to move this battery out of the way. because this is the space that I want to be working in. So we're going to just kind of depower the whole thing at the for the time being, and maybe just snap it someplace that it will go. There we go. We'll just put it right there for now. Just so I could say, so there's power on the grid. Okay, so the kind of spine part of the ship. So the way I want these wings is going to have the wings kind of more higher on the body of the ship. So I'm thinking that we're only going to be coming up to about this height right there for where the kind of roof line or the maximum height of the ship is going to be. So I want to keep everything below that with a good bit of safety margin. So we're also going to need to make sure that we have conveyors running towards the back. So let's get that in here. So I'm going to get some conveyance. And we're just going to run a spine towards the rear of the ship. Not permanent. What this is, again, is just a guide marker to make sure that I do in fact have a conveyor and, you know, respect that distance that it's going back, because I do want to do some shaping here. It's not going to be, you know, this just ugly kind of flat roof like that. I am going to kind of continue the round shape in there, and like I said, I do want to have conveyors going there, so just to make sure that I don't manage to shortcut myself. There will be other opportunities, like, for example, the next thing we want to put in. So let's get our toolbar to where we have them, and let's see, is what we got. That's the H2. We got hydrogen tank. So let's actually let's get our toolbar here. So I'm going to need refineries. So we'll put a refinery in there. We're going to need our assembler. And we'll put that down there, and we're of course going to want to have modules. So speed modules, efficiency modules, yield modules, und the like. And that should do that. Okay, so let's go back to here. So once again, I'm going to kind of break a split line right through there. Let's pop back to the refinery page here. Let's see what we're going to use. So we're just going to use the regular refinery, and we're going to pop that. Let's see. I want to have room for the assemblers, so I'm going to go right here. Okay, and then let's again put one of these guys in. Okay, let's not trigger ourselves. Let's make sure that the words are properly lined up. There we go. You can go away. All right, so I'm going to attach my refinery here. And we'll rotate you down. Let's get the way out of the way of it. So we can put our refinery right there. Don't want to have two. That's only because I've got, right now, I have my symmetry mode turned on. So I'm going to press N to turn that off, and then I can get rid of that. Now for my assemblers. Now the assembler is, yes, it's only a 1x1x2 by itself, but once you get the modules on it, like specifically in this case speed modules on it, it does take a 3x3x2 space. The refinery is 4 blocks long, so we can actually utilize that same volume of space that way. The refinery is a 2x2x4. But when we throw the modules on the bottom, of course, it does become a 2x3x4, which is, you know, that's equivalent to what we would have with the assemblers. Just the assemblers are going to be 1 block wider. All right, so on my refinery, now a lot of this stuff I'm not going to be able to. Actually, no, I could do the yield modules because they require superconductors, and I have plenty of gold. So we're keeping in mind that in the actual world we're in right now, I don't have access to uranium. So the 2 artillery pieces are going to be without ammo at the beginning. That's one of the reasons why I'm going into space, is to make sure that I can get some uranium as well as platinum. So right now, like I say, we can do superconductors, but we really can't do, well, actually, I guess we can. What we can't do is we can't do ion. All right, so the other thing I want to put on here, let's see, we got yield modules. I want Do I want my yield modules or do I want speed? I want speed as well because it's a single refinery. So it is going to be working, you know, it's going to be handling all the jobs. I might slip in a couple of basic refineries. Yeah, I'm thinking about maybe putting in some basic refineries, but let's get these guys set up first. So we get our speed modules. That's the only thing you really need on the assemblers. So that's essentially what I'm doing. Is we look inside here, we look at what the efficiency is on our. Thank you. So you can see here with the speed module, we are running at a production speed of 300%. So that is equivalent. That's turned this 1 into 3. So lots and lots of speed. However, it is going to really up my power. 1.68 megawatts currently for just the 2 speed modules. If we have a look over here, can I get into one of the ports? Yeah, there we go. So if we have a look in this port here, actually, let me take these modules off quickly so we can do a comparison. So I'll pull that one off and remove that one. There we go. All right, let's have a look inside here. So you can see that it's only 560 kilowatts compared to the, you know, much more that was over here, 1.6 megawatts, was it? Yeah, 1.68 megawatts. So it's almost 3 times the amount of power. So it is equivalent of having a whole bunch of assemblers. Okay, so there's our refinery. There's our assemblers all into a nice, evenly spaced. So we got 1 block left there. We got 1 block left there, which is really good because that way I don't have to worry about, you know, I can bring that armor in because I don't want this thing to be staying the same width. My kind of idea is to kind of narrow the waist a little bit. So I'm going to try to keep most of the bulk right in here and then kind of bring that spacing down. But nicely enough, we have lots of space in here, so we can grab our O2 generators here. I'm not going to use the fancy new ones. So we have 2 types of O2 generators. We have the regular one, which is a 1x1x2, and then of course we have these really beautiful, I love the model, they have bubblies and everything, but it is a 1x2x2, and that's not the space I have. These, like the assemblers, are really good when you're building your ships, for putting them kind of along the center lines like that. What they do is they basically give you a 4 conveyor pass through, because even though, you know, it's going to hold ice, it has its own internal inventory as it produces the converts the ice into the various gases that we need, both oxygen and hydrogen. It also allows other items to pass through, so I can put 2 there, and what that does is just gives me a continuous conveyance going that direction. So underneath here we can also utilize this space here. So again, I'm going to go grab myself a conveyor junction, nice and even. That's what I want to see. And there we go. So again, I'm always looking at the conveyor words, making sure that they're lined up and looking pretty. I'll never see these things again, but it still matters to me. Okay, tanks. We're going to need a couple of oxygen tanks. Oh, I actually only need 1 oxygen tank. So we'll put an oxygen tank. Do I want more than 1? Yeah, I'm going to put in. Do I need more than 1? Ice really isn't hard to find. So if I run out of ice, you know, that oxygen will last me a long time. And just, yeah, I think what I'm going to do here is I'm going to use conveyance like that, just because, you know, the weight. And speaking of weight, let's have a look and I really want to keep my eye on that. I usually build incredibly heavy ships, and I'm trying to keep its weight down to a little bit more manageable. So yeah, we're already at 800,000 kilograms. Well, you're going to be a big bastard. I'm going to need so many more thrusters for you. Which is okay. I think I can work with that. Yeah, you know what? I can work with that. For example, what have I got for spacing here? Ooh. Okay, so cargo is also going to need to be on here somewhere. So let's go grab a cargo container, and I'm going to use this guy here. I really love the styling of this particular cargo container. The problem is that it doesn't have a top conveyor port, whereas this guy does, but it's just so damn ugly. Do I need that top conveyor port? No, because I have that conveyor line running right there. So you know what? Screw it. I'm going to use one of those. So we're going to put one of those guys in there. Like that. And I think, because I am just now becoming concerned about whether or not I have enough thrust to get me off planet. Maybe what I'll do is I'll come in through here. I should have symmetry on for this. Let me just do that on the other side here. I've got an idea. At all times, I'd rather have more thrust than not enough. So just again, keep things in perspective. That hydrogen thruster there has a lift on Earth like 730 some odd kilograms. So it itself can I'm already too heavy for one. So right now with the two big hydrogens, that's about 1.5 and change. The little ones each contribute about 10% of that. So say 70,000. No, sorry, 110,000. They can do 110,000. So I've got 6 of those. So that's another 600,000 kilograms. So I've got a lift of about 2.1 million right now. That feels a little bit not enoughy to me. That it potentially could get me into a little bit of not be able to move. I'd rather be safe than sorry. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to grab another conveyance and once again make sure I am rotating it the correct way. These guys are pointing forward, so again, just to match them up. So I'm going to put one new conveyor there. Then I'm going to grab my hydrogen thruster and go back to the new sci-fi large, and I can just slot it in like that. And then just wrap the hull around it. Or I could actually come back one. I'm 1, 2, 4 forward. I don't even need that conveyor. Or do I? Well, yes, I do need that conveyor because otherwise that module is getting in the way. So that will definitely give me all the possible lift. Now it's going to burn a lot more fuel having 4 of these big bastards going. But what I can do is use an event controller to turn a pair of them off, if not all 4 of them off once I get off planet. All right, so that gives me storage, that gives me manufacturing, refining. So that is all of those parts handled. All right, the next thing is just now for hull, or for, yeah, what the hull's going to do is kind of run out like that. I am probably going to be using light armor, maybe a little bit of heavy armor in some strategic places, but for the most part I'm going to keep it light armor-ish, and we'll of course flow back into the hull in a nicer manner here. Let's get rid of this nonsense here and get rid of that seat. All right, so there we go. So that'll be the bottom of the ship, or the bottom height of the ship at least. Where am I hiding them? I need my, let's go just grab it from here. For landing gear, we're going to use these little guys. I love these guys because they're only 1 block in height, and I use a boarding ramp mod, which gives a lovely dropping boarding ramp that is 1 block in height. So that is my height off the ground. The big, again, reason why I want these guys to be kind of elevated, the nacelles, is to make sure there's ground clearance for those turrets there. A lot more hull shaping going on, but I'm not going to worry about hull shaping today. I wanted to get the hull shaping done last week, doing the nacelles, mostly because that's going to inform a lot of my decisions going forward for scale and stuff like that. So I did want to get that kind of idea in there. For this, I'm more worried about the kind of, or concerned, or I'm going to focus more on the mechanics of it all. Okay, so what else are we going to need? We are going to need maybe some more conveyors. So let's just grab ourselves a T-piece like that, and then we'll go to straight conveyor out to there. That still gives me a little bit of hull moving there. You know what? I really don't need these guys. No, I've got conveyor ports everywhere, including that central spine. So no, let's not worry about. I have this habit, if I see a conveyor port, I must connect conveyor to it. No, I'm going to leave that alone. Instead, what I'm going to do here is grab some batteries. So let's actually give these guys some batteries. This is a really good spot here for it. Let's make sure we're going the right side. Yeah, we'll just go this way. So I'm going to put 1. So that's 2, 4, 6, 8 batteries along that area. We'll likely put more batteries in. That means I can also get rid of these 2 because there's one on the other side, so we can clear those out. So we're fully battery powered. We are going to need, speaking of power, we will need power. This sucker is going to be nuclear. Not sure how long it's going to take me to find uranium. So maybe what I should do up here is grab some power generation. So I'm going to grab hydrogen engines, and we're going to use the new fancy ones. So yeah, they still have the conveyor port on the back. And I'm going to plug 1 on each side there. I really, really like these new guys. Like, it's running, but it's really quiet. If we compare it to the other one, the old school one, this is a DLC. It's one of the later DLCs. In fact, let's see if we can't figure out which DLC it is. So if I go to engine here, it is from the Core Systems DLC. Whereas this one here is the vanilla one. So if I plug that vanilla one into, it has a very satisfying diesel sound. I love the startup sound of this thing. But standing next to this thing, and the sound permeates everywhere. You know, this is, what do we look at our calendar? 2081. I think my quest for keys is somewhere in the same year range. We should have much quieter engines. Okay, so we're now charging the batteries. So we have engines, so we have power, refining, assembly, storage. We'll use some smaller storage containers throughout the ship in various locations. Next thing we're going to need is some gyros. So let's figure out if we have gyros anywhere in our hotbar. It doesn't look like it, so let's put our gyro. And we got a lovely little spot right here, so we can get in 2, 4, 6, 8, and I'm going to turn those around. The panel is technically the front of it, so just to make sure, And again, it doesn't really matter because the gyro's orientation is based off the control seat. But again, it's just, one of these things. If you're going to put it in there, put it in neatly. Okay. So we have gyros, we have thrusts. Yeah, you know what I have? I have a spaceship. That's actually all that is really kind of needed to fly this thing. I'm gonna grab a quick copy here. So whenever I kind of want to do a test, I never like to do it and move the original here. So, whoop, nope, wrong button. So I'm gonna do a copy. And we'll paste that up there. I do like the wing design. Grab ourselves a control seat. So yeah, you can see we have gyro control, 900,000. It's gonna be heavy, and then we go boing. Love the flames in these new thrusters. And we have our brakes. Of course, we can go up. And we can slow down. Not great downward thrust, but you know what? Looking at the rate there, it will stop me. If I go into the controls here and we look for the up ones, grab the 4 large ones here, we'll just go into a quick group, our large thrusts, and then turn them off. So that would be kind of without the big guys. So our acceleration, not great, but that would be our slowing. These big guys, I might find out that I don't need them. I've got them there mostly for safety's sake. That's the 2 big ones underneath there. If I can pull them out, I can obviously maybe just replace them with some small... Ooh. Maybe I can just replace them with some small grid. So this thing may come out around close to 2 million. If I just assume it's going to be 2 million. Yeah. I got an idea. Let's get rid of this and get back to the main one here. Yeah, I'm liking the look. I am liking the look. Like from up top here. These are the old ones. More compact, beefier, thicker. But this actually really has a nice, I like the lines on that one. Ooh, I'm pleased. And I usually do not appreciate, again, not great designs or very, sameness on those ones. Yeah, I'm liking this. I'm really starting to like this. That really nice sweep back. This one's a little more centered. The nacelles are more centered on the supports, whereas the nacelles are just trailing back. Gives it that vibe of speed that I'm looking for. All right, so if I don't want to have these big monsters here, and I kind of don't, what I can do, because this is, 3 million kilograms of lift, that might be actually a bit excessive. So instead, and without having to bulk things up too, whoops, turn off my dampeners, and without having to bulk things up too much, instead what I can do, we'll put in a conveyor junction. Conveyor junction, what's your function? And do I just want to do these? Sure, let's just do these guys. That. So 4 more. If I put 10 in, that's like a whole another million. That gives me, yeah, that gives me like 3. Okay, yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. And then I'll do the math. So we go to these guys instead. Go 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's 8 more of those. That gives me a total of 14. So that's 1.4 million lift just based on these little guys here. That brings it you know, these is 12, so it's a little bit more evenly spaced from the top to the bottom. And then I have the additional 1.5. Let's just go 1.5. Yeah, I think that's going to do it. So, you know, 1.4 and 1.5, that's, you know, that's like 3 million lift. That should be okay. That should allow me to, let's actually do the math for Pertam. So Pertam's gravity is 1.2. Alien Planet is 1.1. So the Pertam lift is 611 per thruster. So let's say that's 1.2 million kilograms per large thruster. It's 90,000. So again, we have 14 times 9. That's like 1.4. Let's say 1.2 roughly. I'm very much ruffling. That's still 2.5 million kilograms of lift, and that's without bringing these guys in, which are producing about 660,000 kilograms of lift as well. So yeah, that puts me on track. All right, now for the nose, this is pretty much the length that I want on the nose here, so we can get rid of these guys here. Again, like I said, all of these bits and pieces here are very, very much a temporary fixture. Next thing we're going to put in is get some armament up here. I always like to have some forward-facing guns, just because. I mean, there's honestly no other reason. So we're going to grab some rocket pod. So the rocket pod is the master weapon for fixed weapons. So it gives you all your little fixed weapons. If I go into, you know, small grid here, and let's bring this closer. So that's a small grid. You can get your fireworks launcher, rocket launcher, warfare rocket launcher, reloadable rocket launcher. That one sits like that. You got your fixed Gatling, your warfare Gatling, your autocannon, and of course you got your railgun and assault cannon. If you switch back to large grid, of course you get your fireworks launcher, you get your rocket launcher. This of course is a, you know, loadable. You get your railgun, and you get your artillery piece, and that's it. So the large grid has less options for weaponry, but at least, you know, they're all can be loaded in. Okay, so let's grab a railgun, because who doesn't love a railgun? I'm going to pop the railgun right there. So that's going to be my most forward point. And a little bit farther forward of the nacelle, so that's okay. And then additionally, I'm going to grab a couple of artillery pieces. And we're going to drop them, not there, not there. We're going to, come on. There we go. Right like that. Maybe not right there. Actually, God, those railguns are long. No, not there. Instead, let's grab conveyance. And again, I'm going to use the armored. And where is your... There we go. So we'll put that there. We'll put one of those there. And then we'll grab our artillery piece. And I'll put that right there like that. Yeah, that's better. So one of the things that I find is that it's better if you can keep if you're going to use fixed weapons like this, get them as close to the center line as possible. And then use an aiming camera along that center line, because what that does is just make sure that the rounds land where the crosshair is pointing. These things have no convergence, so if I have two artilleries that are firing forward, the rounds will not converge. They're going to wander a bit because the artilleries are very inaccurate. But even if it was small grid and I had Gatlings on here, they're not actually going to converge. They're going to have a spread, but those spreads may mix, but they're not aiming towards. So if you think like old World War II planes where they had like Spitfires and Mustangs, so the Allied fighters, they all had their weapons in the wings because you can fit more in there. And it's a lot more simple mechanics. So, you know, you got 3 guns on each wing. Problem is, of course, that wings are quite wide. They actually aimed those guns towards a convergence point that could be controlled or dialed in on the ground, and then the pilot's gun sight would give them that kind of idea of where the bullets are going to converge. The German fighters, they actually went a different way. Where they put their weapons is along the center line. In fact, right above the engine or through the engine, if it was a heavy caliber. That is going to give the pilots a lot more accuracy because the bullets are now in line with the pilot's point of view. The problem, of course, they had also then had to come up with a mechanical system to make sure the bullets didn't shoot their own propellers off. It's, you know, an interference triggering system, but they had been doing that since the days of World War I in the biplanes, so they were very good at that. So literally it's only when the propellers were at their horizontal position that the gun would fire, so the bullet, by the time the propeller rotated back to the vertical position, the bullet's long gone. Okay, little history lesson there. All right, now we got those. We are going to need and I'm going to tuck this underneath here. This is going to be a working ship after all. Do I have it anywhere in my toolbar yet? I don't think I do. I know, I'll just keep going up and down my toolbar here. Pick up landing spot. Let's get rid of the wave. Let's get ourselves an ore detector, and we'll slap one of these guys on here. As much as I like the new one here with the fancy rotating bit, yeah, I'm not going to use one of those. Well, maybe I want to use one of these. Yeah, we're going to put the ore detector right there. We're gonna need some camera. We can aim our guns. And we'll hit that connection point there. And I'm gonna wrap most of it, most of this is gonna get wrapped in armor, but I wanna get everything into kind of positioning for it. And then we can grab our camera, put that right there. So that's gonna be our aim camera, and then I'm gonna put bulletproof glass in front of it just to help it live a little longer. And we're not getting too high. We have a nice little cluster of forward firing weapons because I want to be able to take care of myself as things are getting nasty out there. And at some point I may find myself taking on a Factorum because I would really like to put some jump drives. Speaking of jump drives, that is also going to be something very important to our little ship here. All right. So at some point in time, I do want to maybe put in some Prototech jump drive. Now, the Prototech jump drives are 3x3x3, so the same size of the cargo pods. The normal jump drive, though, is only a 3x2x3. And I want at least 2 of them because this thing's already going to be bloody heavy, which means not a long jump space. And I do. Now, where have I got places to put it? So I could put it right here, but that's going to block these conveyor ports off, which is kind of undermining unless I. No, because that's my lower level. So I only have a 2x space here. You know what? What are the chances of me getting a Prototech? I think I'm probably going to be best off if I just do something like that. Again, fuel tanks are in here, so I don't have to worry about them. I've got storage now. I now have charging jump drives. We've got gyros, plus lots of room for more gyros in here. I think that might be all I need for the mechanical. Oh, vent controllers and timer blocks. Let's drop a few of those in here. Just while I got some of these empty voids here. So I am definitely going to need a couple of event controllers. So we're going to put to turn symmetry off here, so I'm going to put one event controller there. So that's going to be for docking. So whenever it docks to a station, to a platform, it's going to have its main kind of connector where it can do its own refueling, because once I get into space, I'm going to need a fueling station somewhere out there. Because it's going to be a lot more convenient if I can have something that just stores fuel for me and makes its own fuel. So if I find like a good ice deposit or an ice-teroid, so an asteroid made completely of ice, what it's going to do is basically set the ship up for docking. Shut the thrusters down, put the batteries to recharge, set the tanks to stockpile, things like that, and that can be controlled on a single event controller. Another one that's kind of useful to use, especially when you're cruising around planets and the whole, who doesn't want to go do some exploring, is I also use an event controller for a cruise control. Basically what it does is that it monitors the grid speed. If the grid speed drops below a certain whatever I've set, and that can be set up on your toolbar so you can raise or lower your speed limit, it'll just fire the rear thrusters until it reaches that speed, turns the rear thrusters off. So basically using overrides. What else are we going to need? Timer blocks are useful just in general purpose. So if you have a process that needs multiple things going on, so one of the things that we use, of course, is we use the laser grinder turret, and it has a 3-stage activation. You have to power it on, you have to tell it track targets, and then you have to tell it to activate. So to have that on a single button, you need to use timer blocks. So I like to have at least a couple of timer blocks there. And I think that should cover any more that I need. Couple of timer blocks. How many do I need? So what else do I need? I need cruise control. So I'm also going to need programming blocks, but I'm going to keep the programming blocks internal. Yeah, I'm just going to use those two. If I need more, I can use set up a bit of a server room inside the ship for what I have for basically the crew quarter area. All right, how we looking? We're looking pretty good, I think. That is the mechanics. Let me just adjust. Just gonna adjust the sun here. There we go. So yeah, I think that gives me the front of the ship. I think I'm gonna move this back. Actually, I'm gonna take it out of there for the time being. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna actually start trying to give the little bit of shaping now to the forward hull. No, you know what? That's going to be our mechanics. Yeah, that's as far as we're going to get on this one. So again, let's do our checklist. We have event controllers. We have timer blocks. We have assemblers. We have refinery. We have a little bit of storage here. Storage can be easily expanded. In fact, I'm going to do that. Just drop some small storage containers right along there. So we got more than enough storage. We have some forward-firing weapons. We've got these weapons here. I'm not going to put any more. I'm going to put more defenses, but I can't really put the defenses on until I have, the outside skin in place. Still going to put the ore detector. The reason I took it off is I want to see what I'm going to do for shaping in the front here, because I want to kind of have it come out and then taper back towards the bottom. So that ore detector might have been too far forward, but think that's not bad for today. Yeah, actually, I'm pretty happy with that. I I might just thicken it here, but you know what? That we'll worry about the shaping when the time for the shaping comes into play. But I think that's going to do it for today. Thank you guys for watching once again. And until next time, have yourselves a great day. Be safe out there. Be good out there. And until next time,